Some nights it seems like just everything goes your way, and while it definitely hasn't been that kind of season for the Kraken, this particular night was definitely one of those for them. What's cracking, everybody, and welcome back to Kraken R&R, where the Seattle Kraken pound the Arizona Coyotes 5-0 in the 22nd shutout in the career of Philip Grubauer, a game that quite honestly was not as lopsided in the flow of play as that score would suggest, but still a game that the Kraken controlled all the way through. Now, although it turned out that the game was won, it seemed like the Kraken were just destined to win, with a lot of bounces constantly going their way throughout the course of the game. It didn't start out that way for them, as we find out going into the game that they're going to be missing their two best players in Vince Dunn and also Jared McCann, both out with injury. Now, on the one hand, that's not necessarily the worst thing in the world, as losses aren't bad for the Kraken at this point. It helps them get a better draft pick. And actually, with this win and losses by Buffalo and New Jersey, they do drop to the 11th spot in the draft. But at the same time, to get wins in your last two games at home, especially with both of them being against bad opponents that you really should be able to beat, and now they have a chance to do that with a win in their last game at home against San Jose on Thursday, is almost just as important to leave a good taste in the mouth of your fans going into the next season. Obviously, the season, as we all know, didn't go the way anyone would have liked it to, but it would be good to get a couple decisive victories in those last couple games at home, and then whatever happens on the road happens on the road. So then, with the absence of Dunn, and especially McCann, since Dunn has been missing for a good chunk of the last couple of months with a couple of different injuries now, it does mean that it's a lot of the new guys or younger players that will soon be going back down to the AHL to play in the AHL playoffs with the Firebirds that are playing in this game. Winterton, Morrison, Wright, Evans, they're all up in this one, and the Kraken, well, it turns out they didn't really need Dunn or McCann to have their way in this game. And while the final score might look ugly, boy did it look like it could get a lot worse than it turned out to be after the first couple minutes of the game. As right away to start the game, it's actually the second shift, but the right line out on the ice, they get the puck into the offensive end and behind the net, where it's batted around behind the net between Eberle and Schwartz a couple times. Wright also down there. Eventually, Eberle gets it down to Wright along the goal line, closer to the corner than towards the net. He handles it a couple of times and then just decides to whip a backhand shot towards the net, which goes off of the heel of the glove of Vejmelka and through his legs into the back of the net to give the Kraken the 1-0 lead just over a minute in, with Wright picking up his fourth goal in as many games since coming back up from the AHL. Even if, admittedly, this was a bit lucky, there's absolutely no reason this puck should have ended up in the net. I don't think it even would have gone in had the net been empty. It looked like it was going wide. Vejmelka kind of reached out to prevent it from going out to the far side, where there could have been a player for all he knows to put it in, but instead it goes off of his glove through his legs in the net. Wright picks up the goal. The Kraken will happily take the 1-0 lead and pretty quickly end up on a power play. And wouldn't you know it, it doesn't take long into that power play before the first unit, which features the Bees line that was put together for the first time in this game, Beniers centering Burakovsky and Bjorkstrand. They're out there as a part of the first unit. They get into the offensive end, cycle the puck around. Eventually, Schultz fires the puck on net from well out, which is redirected on the way by Matty Beniers, who maybe gets a little bit more of it than he would have liked with the blade of his stick, as his deflection is going well wide of the net down into the corner, but then it goes off a skate of an Arizona player out to Burakovsky on the far side. Burakovsky handles the puck once to get it to settle and fires it on net. There's no chance for Vejmelka after the crazy bouncing around through the middle of the ice. It's into the top corner to give the Kraken the 2-0 lead, still less than 3 minutes into the game. Actually, just over 2 minutes in. For Burakovsky, it's his 7th of the season, as Beniers picks up his 21st assist, and Schultz his 18th. And from there, the Kraken just continue to press for more, getting a couple even better chances than really what they'd had to this point. Riker Evans gets set up with a great chance that Vejmelka does come up with a save on. Even he thought it had gotten past him, but he's able to corral that one to keep it out. Eventually, the Kraken get another power play. That one, though, really never gets off the ground. They don't really even get a shot on goal, I think. And eventually, things do settle down for the Coyotes, and we get through the rest of the period without too much really happening. There's still a lot of shots on goal, actually mostly for the Coyotes, but by the end of it, it's still 2-0 Kraken. The end of the first period, that is. So we head to the second period, which does get off to a bit of a back and forth start with maybe even a slight edge towards the Coyotes. But a few minutes in, it's the Kraken on a rush the other way, 2-on-1 thanks to a turnover in the neutral zone, which found its way to Beniers' stick. He gets it up to Bjorkstrand as he skates in with, of all people on the other side, Schultz, they close in on the net. Bjorkstrand gets the pass across. Schultz fires off the shot at the top corner and finds the top corner to give the Kraken the 3-0 lead. Schultz picks up his 7th of the season with the assist to Beniers, his 2nd already of the game, and obviously Bjorkstrand. Following this goal for the Kraken, though, things go a bit off the rails for the majority of the second period, and it happens almost right away after the puck drops. The Coyotes get into the offensive end before they even started announcing the goal over the intercom, and they get a shot off a net, which beats Grubauer, but hits the far post, goes off a Coyotes player crossing in front of the net. He's able to get the puck to settle for him and fires off the shot at what's basically a half-empty net, but Grubauer is able to dive back and make the save somehow, so he gets a lucky bounce and then makes a great save to follow up on it. The Coyotes, right after that save, end up on a power play, which really doesn't go much of anywhere. But after that power play, they continue to get great chance after great chance after great chance right in and around the net. And to Grubauer's credit, he is coming up with great save after great save on most of those. But a handful of them, there were some lucky bounces, some help from his defenseman. Riker Evans has a pseudo save of his own. He already had one of those earlier on in the last homestand, so he comes up with another one to help Grubauer there. And there's a couple of bounces that, quite honestly, through the middle of this period, it just seemed like there was a force field around the net that even with Grubauer playing well and pucks hitting him, it just didn't seem like there was any way the Coyotes could score no matter how many good opportunities they got, and opportunities off of rebounds. The puck was all around the net, just not in it. So you know what? Sometimes you have a goaltender playing great and standing on his head. Other times you just have all the luck in the world. And then there's games like this one, which was honestly a bit of both, which for the Kraken in this game obviously results in that shutout as a final score, but also helps them get through a second period that really could have gotten ugly pretty fast through the middle of this with, yeah, like I said, they caught a lot of breaks, especially in the middle 10 minutes of the second period, which I gotta say was kind of nice to see, not only because it did result in the stress-free Kraken win, but also because, well, as we're all well aware at this point, this season has featured a lot of games like this one, but in the other direction. Anyway, the Kraken survive all of that to get to the third period, still maintaining that 3-0 lead, and while that does seem like a pretty safe score going into the third period with all that had gone well for the Kraken in all sorts of different ways in the second, this is an Arizona team that just came off of scoring 6 goals in a third period against the Golden Knights, so it definitely isn't over going into the third. But pretty quickly into it, the Kraken get a power play. They don't score on that, but just as the power play comes to an end, it's Tanev, Gord, and Cartier out on the ice. They just have a beautiful little passing play that starts with Cartier down in the corner, who fishes it out from the corner along the boards, gets it up to Gord. Gord quickly to the far side to Tanev, and Tanev has a tap-in goal. Vejmelka has absolutely no chance on this one with the quick passing play from one side in the corner off to the other side with the backdoor for Tanev. It's his 7th of the season, just like the couple of players before him, and the Kraken have a 4-0 lead. And then finally, just a few minutes later, it's the Bees line out on the ice getting some offensive zone time, which they got quite a bit of over the course of this game. They were playing pretty well as a group, even getting used to each other playing as a group for the first time. Either way, in the offensive zone, it's Bjorkstrand who gets it up to Alexiak, who's kind of the odd man out in this play, as he goes D to D across the blue line to Borgen on the far side. Another B. He fires the shot on net, which gets through Beniers. He thought it had been tipped by Beniers. Instead, it gets just past him through the 5-hole of Vejmelka and into the net to give Borgen the goal, as Beniers never touches it. The Kraken the 5-0 lead, Borgen picking up his 3rd of the season. And from there for the Kraken, over the last 10 minutes of the game, all they really had left to do was preserve the shutout for Grubauer, which they're able to do to get to that final score of 5-0. Grubauer, like I said, his 22nd career shutout and 2nd of the season. He's done a few of them with the Kraken, 39 save shutouts. So all of that pressure in the second period meant that the Coyotes did get quite a number of shots on net over the course of this game. Grubauer keeps them all out with, again, like I said, some help from the post defenseman and general luck, but he did a lot of the work as well. A fantastic night for him. And the Kraken in general playing very well, even without their 2 best players, and a lot of guys that will be playing in the AHL playoffs in a few weeks' time. So then in the end with this game, as with any game that you win 5-0, there was a lot to like about it from a Kraken perspective. I suppose if you really wanted to nitpick, there's a few things to not like about how they played defensively in the second period specifically. They still managed to bend but not break, and played well defensively in the immediate vicinity of the net to help the puck stay out of the net with all the other things going on. Still, you got the young players getting more experience. Shane Wright gets yet another goal as he clearly is feeling comfortable at the NHL level now over the last few games. And yeah, some of that has been against easier opponents. He wasn't able to score in the one game against a good opponent in the Kings. He'll still get to play, and I would imagine most of these young guys will get to play the next game against San Jose, and we'll see what happens there. Even still, he really looks like he belongs with that line of Eberle and Schwartz, which says enough. Even outside of the goal scoring, he's doing a lot of the other things well. And as far as some of the other young guys are concerned, especially Morrison and Winterton, they maybe didn't get quite as many opportunities or as much opportunity as Wright did, especially with them being on a lower line, kind of not as much playing time, and obviously not with as experienced of players. Still were able to hold their own. They don't generate any offense, both of them still looking for their first NHL point, but they were able to at least get mixed up in things. I think both of them, I know Winterton had a pretty big hit and got mixed up in a couple of shenanigans after plays. I think Morrison had one. He had a big block that he had to kind of gut through the end of the game. He left for a little bit and ended up coming back. Beniers, another younger player, even if he's been with the team for 2 full seasons now, also is getting a little chippy out there. He threw a Coyote player to the ice who might have flopped a little bit, and the officials definitely saw that and didn't call Beniers for anything. Beniers kind of gives him a like, what the heck, man, as he's skating off to the bench. It was an entertaining moment to see. Other than that, yeah, just not a lot to hate about this game, and definitely the type of game that you want to leave your fans going into the offseason having watched. Fun in all regards, and yeah, good to do that in front of the home crowd. As for the Kraken 3 stars, then it does make things a little bit more difficult, as we could easily come up with 6 or 7 stars in this one. We'll limit it to 3 with the help of Patreon, as always with these 3 stars brought to you by Patreon this season, and as far as I can tell, off into the future. Also, if you want to help decide the Kraken awards at the end of the season, you can support on Patreon as well. But for the 3 stars in this game, the first one is obvious, a 39 save shutout. It's Philip Grubauer with, again, maybe a slight nod to the post behind him and the save from Evans. And honestly, and we'll get into this in the season recap, but even for everything that hasn't gone well this season, one really good thing that has gone on this season is the goaltending for the Kraken, not just what Joey Daccord has been able to do in his first real extended time in the NHL, but also Philip Grubauer, who's had a great season following the pretty good end to his season last year and obviously that great playoff run. So to see the goaltending continue to be good for the Kraken in this game was a great sign. And then there's plenty of players as far as skaters that you can look at. Matty Beniers gets a couple of points. Obviously, Shane Wright scores a goal. In the end, though, my second star has got to be Oliver Bjorkstrand. He also comes up with 2 assists and was a driving force in this game all game long. He also laid an absolutely massive reverse hit on Logan Cooley, which did end up being called a penalty, though honestly I feel like it was just a good clean hit. And I mean, Cooley being a younger and smaller player, it's definitely the type of hit that you learn from as far as he's concerned at the NHL level. And I mean, he did have the puck, so it wasn't a dirty hit or anything like that. So yeah, Bjorkstrand gets my second star. And then the third star, I'm actually going to go with Justin Schultz here. He gets a goal and an assist, so definitely part of the scoring, but just a great job on the back end there. He and Dumoulin paired in this game, which it'll be interesting to see what happens with the 2 of them in this offseason. Dumoulin is still under contract for 1 more year, so he'll be at least part of the team next year, but it'll be interesting to see in what context that looks like. Schultz, on the other hand, it's really up in the air. Personally, I don't know that the Kraken are going to end up keeping him, but I could see it going either way. A great game from him nonetheless, though, and yeah, definitely a part of a good, fun, big win on the scoreboard for the Kraken. But as always, I'd love to know what you think down in the comment section below, who your 3 stars would be. Again, like I said, Beniers, Wright, and any number of other players you could definitely throw in there. Cartier, Gord, Tanev all get points as well. But with that, until the next one, the last home game of the season. If you have made it to this point, thank you very much for watching. If you did like or enjoy the video, the buttons for that kind of stuff down below help support the channel, so I appreciate you using them. Stay safe out there, be good to each other, God bless, and go Kraken!